Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Spill the Beans, a candid conversational piece on all things life and career. My name is Ty Blair, Executive Director of the awesome nonprofit organization When You Give a Bean Water, a collective hub of resources for families of color to utilize on their own terms. And on this month's episode, we will be diving into the career of management consultant. Now, on BLS.gov, they have it listed under management analyst. So, just so you know, when you do type in consultant for BLS.gov, it's going to come up under management analyst. All right, so let's dive in. So, management analysts, often called management consultants, recommend ways to improve an organization's efficiency. They advise managers on how to make organizations more profitable through reduced costs and increased revenues. Management analysts typically do the following: gather and organize information about the problems to be solved or the procedures to be improved, interview personnel and conduct on site observations to determine the methods, equipment, and personnel that will be needed, analyze financial and other data, including revenue, expenditure, and employment reports, develop solutions or alternative practices, recommend new systems, procedures, or organizational changes, make recommendations to management through presentations or written reports, and confer with managers to ensure changes are working. Now, although some management analysts work for the organization that they analyze, many work as consultants on a contractual basis. The work of management analysts may vary from project to project. Some projects require a team of analysts, each specializing in one area. On other projects, analysts work independently with the client organization's managers. Management analysts often specialize in certain areas, such as inventory control or reorganizing corporate structures for efficiency. Some focus on a specific industry, such as healthcare or telecommunications. In government, management analysts usually specialize by type of agency. Organizations hire management analysts to develop strategies for entering and remaining competitive in the market. Management analysts who work on a contract may write proposals and bid for jobs. Typically, an organization that needs the help of a management analyst requests proposals from a number of consultants and consulting companies that specialize in the needed work. Interested companies then submit a proposal that explains details such as how the work will be completed, what the schedule will look like, and how much it will cost. The organization selects the proposal that best meets its needs and budget. All right, now as far as the work environment, management analysts held about 987,600 jobs in 2022. The largest employers of management analysts were as follows. At 35%, we have professional, scientific, and technical services, 17% in government, 14% were self employed workers, 12% were in finance and insurance, and 4% were in management of companies and enterprises. Management analysts usually divide their time between their offices and the client site. Because they must spend a significant amount of time with clients, analysts travel frequently. Analysts may experience stress, especially when trying to meet a client's demands on a tight schedule. And as far as the work schedule, they usually often work many hours under tight deadlines, and some work more than 40 hours per week. So it definitely has to be a passion of yours, burning the midnight oil, as they say. All right, so how to become a management analyst or a consultant. So, a bachelor's degree is the typical entry level requirement for management analysts. However, some employees prefer to hire candidates who have a master's degree in business administration or an MBA. Management analysts address a range of topics, and many fields of study provide a suitable educational background. Fields of bachelor's degree study may include business, social science, and engineering. The Institute of Management Consultants USA, or IMC USA, offer their Certified Management Consulting CMC designation to those who meet minimum levels of education and experience and who complete other requirements. Management analysts are not required to get certification, but having the credential may give job seekers a competitive advantage. Many analysts enter the occupation with several years of work experience. Organizations that specialize in certain fields typically try to hire candidates who have experience in those fields. So, for example, tax preparation firms may prefer candidates who have worked as an accountant or auditor, and software companies might seek those with experience as a computer systems analyst. As far as advancement, as management analysts gain experience, they often take on more responsibility. Senior level analysts may supervise teams working on complex projects and may become involved in seeking out new business. Those with exceptional skills may eventually become partners in their organization and focus on attracting new clients and bringing in revenue. Senior analysts may leave consulting and move to management positions at non consulting organizations. All right, some important qualities to have. So we have analytical skills. Management analysts must be able to interpret information and use their findings to make proposals. Communication skills. Management analysts must be able to convey information clearly in both writing and speaking. Analysts also need good listening skills to understand an organization's problems and recommend appropriate solutions. Interpersonal skills. Management analysts work with managers and other employees of their organization for which they provide consulting services. They should be able to work as a team toward achieving the organization's goals. Problem solving skills. Management analysts must be able to think creatively to solve clients' problems. Although some aspects of clients' problems may be similar, each situation is likely to present unique challenges for the analyst to solve. And time management skills. Management analysts often work under tight deadlines and must use their time efficiently to complete projects on schedule. All right, let's go to the meat and potatoes, the pay. So the median annual wage for management analysts was $99,410 in May of 2023. The lowest 10% earned less than $57,840, and the highest 10% earned more than $172,280. Now, in May 2023, the median annual wage for management analysts in the top industries in which they worked were as follows: $104,400 for professional, scientific, and technical services, $99,730 for management of companies and enterprises, $96,450 in finance and insurance, and $92,310 in government. Management analysts work for consulting firms are usually paid a base salary in addition to a year-end bonus. Self-employed analysts are paid directly by their clients, typically by either the hour or the project. All right, job outlook. It is projected to grow about 10%. Demand for consulting services is expected to increase as organizations seek ways to improve efficiency and control costs. As markets become more competitive, firms will need to use resources more efficiently. Information technology, IT consultants are expected to see high demand. Businesses will seek out consulting firms to help them attain a high level of cybersecurity and make sure their IT systems are efficient and up to date. Growth is expected to be particularly strong in smaller consulting companies that specialize in specific industries or types of business function, such as information technology or human resources, Government agencies also are expected to seek the services of management analysts as they look for ways to reduce spending and improve efficiency. All right, so now we're going to get into some demographics. So, according to Zippia.com, we have 66% of men that are management consultants versus 34% of women. As far as race, we have 65% white, 14% Asian, 9% Hispanic Latino, 8% Black African American, 5% unknown, and 0.1% American Indian Alaska Native. Now, to get into a few articles that I was researching, this first one comes from Forbes. It's titled Minorities in Consulting: How to Overcome Workplace Barriers. This was written or published February 11th of 2020 by Rod Walker, who was a managing director at that time. So he said, I believe working in management consulting is an exceptional way to gain broad and deep exposure within a multitude of corporations and industries. Now, he also asked some very poignant questions. He said, have you ever been the only minority on your engagement team, consulting a client team with no minorities, and working with an executive leadership team with no minorities? Have you ever been mistaken as a junior consultant on a team that you were leading? Have you ever been consulting with the leadership team where the topic is diversity? The entire client team is white males and no one wants to hear your thoughts on diversity. Have you ever worked with a client that wanted you to attend every diversity event because they had very few internal leaders that were minorities? No, not all consulting engagements resemble this or start off this way, but minorities in consulting will more than likely experience these scenarios at some point. He said, if you do experience this, it is important to stay focused on the objective at hand and remain poised because everyone is watching for your reaction. What's more, do not be surprised if and when something like this does happen. It is unfortunate, and it goes without saying that it should not be this way in the 21st century. And I agree wholeheartedly, but this is the world that we are living in. Now, some keys to succeeding as a minority in management consulting. He said the consulting industry is an extremely competitive one. And yes, this means that it's exponentially more competitive for minorities. I assert this with the perspective of being in the consultant industry for over 20 years. I believe in the 3 C's for success in management consulting: competence, collaboration, and credit. As far as competence, it all starts here. Consulting is about coming up to speed on the many moving parts of a client's dynamic, their business challenges, and potential solutions as quickly as possible. There is little room and tolerance for long runways to reduce the learning curve. Thus, mastering the client situation, business environment, and culture at lightning speed is a necessary skill that can set you apart from your peers. Number 2, collaboration. Working with teams and building internal and client relationships is a critical aspect of consulting and is often the most difficult for minorities to master. My hypothesis is that this is difficult because oftentimes not many team members or client resources look like us, especially at the senior level of client organizations. Simply put, my suggestion here is to be comfortable with the uncomfortable and force yourself to make these relationships a source of strength in your work and to your personal and professional work networks. And number 3, credit. No, this is not your FICO score. This is developing the confidence and foresight to not feel the urge to take credit for all your personal and team successes. I learned this from my college baseball days at Clark Atlanta University. Teams are successful on the baseball field and in management consulting war rooms. As a leader on client engagements, I highlight my team and their accomplishments as much as I can. This practice stems from the understanding that consulting can be transactional, But the real value, when you're regarded less like a consultant and more like a trusted advisor, is dependent on a series of transactions. Together, these demonstrate proof that you are competent, trustworthy, and a team player who is confident in your capabilities. Finally, a key component of success that cannot be ignored is the task of finding the right mentors and sponsors to be your advocates, to steer you in the right directions and away from pitfalls. Pitfalls will occur even with the best guidance, but a rock solid support system helps ensure that they do not become devastating setbacks. Essential for me has been to get a diverse set of perspectives fostered through the cultivation of an equally diverse group of mentors and sponsors. This, alongside your closest, most selective advocates, can provide an array of authentic and varied perspectives for you to consider as you navigate your personal path to success within the management consulting industry. Gems there, gems. Awesome. All right, the next article is called, let me get it here, DEI Goes Quiet. Now, DEI stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. This is an article that was posted in the New York Times. Let me get the date, January 13th, 2024, and it's been updated January 15th, 2024. Now, this was a very interesting one because it had mentioned that there was this growing backlash against DIE. Um, she had mentioned that the economy, and I'm talking about she, like you guys know who she is. This is Sarah Kessler. She was the one who wrote this news article. So she said that the economy and political landscape have changed since 2020 when companies hired DEI officers in droves amid a racial reckoning after the murder of George Floyd. Recently, DIE programs have become less visible. Over the past 2 years, hiring for DEI roles has plunged, and the number of investors calls mentioning DEI has dropped. That raises a question. Have companies pulled back on DEI, or have they just changed how they approach and talk about it? So last year, the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action in college admissions, setting off a wave of similar lawsuits and legal threats against company diversity programs. Now, at some companies, what used to be called DEI, a DEI survey may now be advertised as a culture survey. So, this pushback may have prompted a new rebranding. Management training, once framed as part of DEI efforts, may instead be discussed as a course to help managers deliver performance reviews more effectively. So, definitely a rebranding of the term. Some corporate DEI programs now include a broader variety of groups. Um, this person here, Porter Braswell, who is the founder of 2045 Studio, which is a membership network for professionals of color, that person said, I think instead of saying this is a program for Black employees, he said, it would be more like this is a program to increase the equity of promotion rates across the firm, and everyone is included to apply to be a part of this program, but will play different roles. Some companies now talk about IED instead of DEI, placing the emphasis more on inclusion. All right, now, as far as the slow turnover rates, ooh, employees that were hired in 2021 may not have needed to be hired again in 2022. And a cooling of the labor market, especially in industries like tech and finance, that are most likely to have DEI roles, probably contributed to the drop. Braswell of Jopwell added that many companies try to offload all responsibility for changing company culture onto a couple of new hires, a strategy that predictably failed. All those people are being fired, all those people are quitting, all those people are feeling burnt out, he said, adding, the only way these cultures change to be more diverse, equitable, and inclusive is if it is everybody's job within the company. And I could definitely not agree more. Now, just to give you one final perspective, this is an article from Baringa. This is a black woman. Her name is Naz El Faki, and she is a black woman that is a part of the management consulting industry. She wrote this article on October 2nd, 2023. So she said, what does it mean to be a black woman in the corporate world? For me, it has often meant that I am the only one in the room who looks like me. I have had to seek out black role models. It sometimes means living in a double consciousness where I have to run a parallel thought process to my own to make sure I won't attract any labels like aggressive or difficult, which when you're black can be words that stick to you like glue. A friend of mine said to me, I don't want to be known for anything other than my good work. He is referring to wanting the fact that we are black to go unnoticed, to just be a mere characteristic that is not assigned to us as a defining attribute. But the truth is that we cannot go unnoticed while still having presence. We cannot be invisible whilst also thriving in an environment that requires visibility. We cannot live in a double consciousness and bring our whole selves to work. So how do we reconcile this? I would be lying if I said I had it figured out or I have reached a conclusion on this topic. And then she goes on to give the principles that she has learned along the way. She said, no one is entitled to your story. In the past, I have felt pressured to participate in D&I, which is diversity and inclusion activities. For example, listening circles at the time of George Floyd's murder. To me, these felt totally inauthentic, performative, and bordering on voyeuristic. It felt uncomfortable at first to say no, but then hugely empowering. If you don't want to be the face of blackness in the workplace, that is your right. Take part in causes that you are passionate about and believe in. I'm writing this blog because I have been given the space to share my genuine views, and I hope that it can help others. You deserve to take up space. I repeat, you deserve to take up space. You deserve to be in the rooms that you are in, and you have earned your right to take up this space. Remember that. Next time you think about not wanting to disagree with someone or speak up about something that makes you feel uncomfortable, try to tap into your authentic thoughts and don't talk yourself out of taking up the space that you have the right to occupy. And finally, pass the baton. I believe in the power of well-structured and purpose-driven networks around D&I, diversity and inclusion. However, what I am most passionate about and a believer in is the informal networks that don't make it onto the company's intranet or LinkedIn campaigns. These are the ones that I have found most valuable in throughout my career. To me, this looks like being a mentor, a confidant, and a friend to all of your black colleagues. Share the tips, relationships, and the advice that only you can give them. And then she leaves a quote that says, caring for myself is not self indulgence, it is self preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. That quote is from Audre Lorde. And I'm going to leave you guys on that note. Thanks so much for tuning in to this month's episode of Spill the Beans. Again, you can follow me on all social media platforms at Give a Bean Water. Also, check out the website to stay up to date on what's going on there at giveabeanwater.org. And thank you guys so much for your continued support, checking out these episodes, going on the websites. Definitely, if anyone is in need of trying to find some nonprofit organization, some help, You're able to find all of that listed on giveabeanwater.org. If you're interested in finding out about positive, creative, amazing social media content, you can also go under coffee beans under giveabeanwater.org, and you're able to find some new and fresh faces. But until next time.